that 15-year-old girl that was shot up in Billings Heights on Saturday.
Yeah, a real tragedy up there. Up in the residence up in the Heights, a little off of Bench a little bit, and detectives responded there. We are investigating that. We have multiple people in the house, so we want to make sure that that we've eliminated all possibilities. Anytime we have these attended deaths, if you will, we always are handling them at the highest investigation level until we determine otherwise. So investigations going on there. Have been in contact with Superintendent Upham. Obviously, we have a Heights student, so that's going to impact the staff and students at a couple schools, and so they're getting geared up to have some staffing there available for counseling or whatnot. But truly a tragedy, and we're really trying to work to get to the bottom of it to find out what happened.
And a Billings man was found dead on Billings north side a little bit later on. It looks like it was a self-inflicted wound.
Yeah, that's correct. That was earlier in the morning, Scott. So 19th and 10th Avenue North, this individual was discovered, and detectives were called out, spent several hours on the scene, and the early assessment that I got was that it appeared to be self-inflicted, and I haven't heard anything to change that. So, again, another tragedy, and, that all goes into a whole nother discussion point, that when you start having the suicides, we all know that it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem, and a lot of people at work trying to resolve those matters. But our officers were busy this weekend, not only with those two incidents, but weather getting nice. We had several crashes, help with the women's run. So just, the onset of summer had us hopping pretty well.
And yesterday there was a power outage, lower part of Central Avenue, Montana Avenue over in Broadwater. Then this morning on King Avenue West in Shiloh. How does that affect you guys? Because I imagine, the traffic lights go out, and then some people don't know this. The first person at the stop sign stops and goes, and then the next person. But sometimes people don't get that into their heads.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably the biggest thing that affects us is, number one, the traffic flow. And as you indicate, when we lose the power to the traffic signals, those intersections are handled just as a four-way stop. And so people need to go, first one there gets to go. If you're there at the same time, you yield to the right. Sometimes what we see is people are just, on a major thoroughfare, motoring along and just end up blowing through the intersection. And so we really want to remind people that if the traffic signals are out, that obviously there's something wrong. They need to proceed with due caution, and it is handled like an open intersection. Other things that we deal with, that sets off a lot of alarms. Some of those that, may flip into battery power, and the batteries aren't quite where they need to be, so we get some alarm responses and have to sort those things out. But for the most part, that's really what affects us.
Last week, I believe it was Wednesday, there was a press conference on Project Safe Neighborhood. Let's talk a little bit about that press conference and what came out of that.
Yeah, it was the year anniversary of the re-emergence of Project Safe Neighborhood. This has been a federal program for quite some time, kind of died on the vine. U.S. Attorney Kurt Almy got everybody together based on the problem that we're having with violent crime, not only in Yellowstone County and Billings, but across the state. We became the pilot program, we being Yellowstone County, so we got everybody together and made significant inroads. Over 171 worst of the worst. The U.S. Attorney Almy calls them alpha criminals. I've never heard that term before, but a good analogy. The worst of the worst have been indicted federally. Those that didn't really raise to the federal bar were charged by County Attorney Scott Twito's office. So we have a couple hundred at least that were arrested and charged for violent activities, using drugs, peddling drugs, facilitating that type of stuff, committing armed robberies, committing violent offenses.
Yeah.
For us, as we indicated in our annual report, we saw a 15% decrease in crimes against property and almost a zero increase in violent crime. So great success in 1 year.
I was talking with Stacy Zinn of the DEA on Friday, and she's been in her position here in the state of Montana for about 5 years. And what she says she has seen over her last 5 years was the amount of meth coming in from, small quantity to people even bringing like 19 pounds into the state. Is that kind of what you're seeing too?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm being told that a week or so ago that the drug units got 30 pounds of methamphetamine from something. So we are seeing significant poundage coming in. That, of course, is divvied up, and you're talking millions and millions of dollars of street value. And so, those are things that we need to get after. We do a pretty good job here locally, but as we've spoken before, what our drug task force is really geared toward is disrupting and dismantling organizations, drug traffic organizations. And so we want that middle level and higher. So that takes us multi-state and sometimes international when we start talking to Mexico. So it's a very, very pervasive problem, but we've got all hands on deck here and full court press on the worst of the worst. And I think what we saw was some very, very good results. Here in Yellowstone County, Missoula was the second initiative to kick it off. You're going to see a press conference similar to ours in a week or so. So hopefully you'll see some similar numbers.
My goodness gracious, I saw that one table, and I'm sure that was just a mere pittance of the number of guns that were, confiscated. But my goodness gracious, it looked like the roaring 20s or 30s, whatever, there with Al Capone with all those guns on that table.
Yeah, significant seizures on guns, cash, and drugs out of all of these people. I mean, generally, when you're going to see those things when we make arrests or searches, those are all weapons that are illegally possessed, illegally attained, high-capacity magazine, large caliber. You saw a lot of sawed-off shotguns. There was nothing there that could really be construed as a recreational shooting.
Wow.
And so we know from our experience that a lot of our violence is spawned by the methamphetamine. It's dealer against dealer. It's user against user. Our officer-involved shootings have involved that. And so you look at that type of firepower out there, and it was just it's really great work to get those off the street.